Welcome in as we dive into all things people, power, and politics in a wild election year that's put Metro Detroit right in the hot spotlight once again. I'm Rupraj, and this is your stop for unbiased political news each and every night. We'll get to the event with VP Harris that has a lot of you talking in just a second. But first, former President Donald Trump was also on stage tonight addressing anti-Semitism in front of the Israeli-American Council. What he had to say and the allegations an ally of his now faces. We're also diving into the celebrity endorsement question. Hulk Hogan, Taylor Swift, Kid Rock, George Clooney are all influencers, but how much influence do they actually have on undecided voters? Our all-star panel is minutes away from weighing in on if it means anything to you. But first, Vice President Kamala Harris appearing in a setting that probably gave you a little bit of a flashback. The Veep appearing with none other than Oprah Winfrey in a set resembling her old daytime talk show on a soundstage right here in Oakland County in Farmington Hills. It was billed as a virtual rally, but there was a studio audience as well in this town hall style format where Harris touched on several hot button issues, including the border. She blamed former President Trump for killing a bipartisan border bill earlier this year, but then made this vow.
Donald Trump called up those folks and said, don't put that bill on the floor for a vote. He blocked the bill, and you know why?
Why?
Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Now that that bill has gone and hasn't passed, will you reintroduce that?
Absolutely, and when I am elected President of the United States, I will make sure that bill gets to my desk and I will sign it into law.
Harris also touched on an issue we've seen far too often, school shootings. She says while she's a gun owner and supports the Second Amendment, it's clear something needs to be done.
I have personally prosecuted homicide cases. I know I've seen autopsies. I've seen what these weapons do to the human body. And we've got to agree that, in particular when we're talking about something like an assault weapon, it's literally designed to be a tool of war. It has no place on the streets of a civil society. It's designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly.
Now, before the vice president took the stage, Governor Whitmer was actually brought out, as you see here, introduced by the G-Mac Cash Big Gretch song. She had this message for Americans, but women in particular.
This is going to be a big, close race. Michigan is always tight. We know we're feeling good, but we got to translate that feeling into action. We deserve a leader who is strong and kind. It's not mutually exclusive, and that's why I think this moment is so important for all of us today, but for our kids and future generations, too. There's so much at stake here, from our individual reproductive freedom to the ability to get ahead and make a good living and take care of your family. That's all on the line this election.
Yes.
Now, several big-name celebrities appeared virtually at this event, from Chris Rock and Ben Stiller to Meryl Streep and Julia Roberts. Former President Trump addressing anti-Semitism in front of the Israeli-American Council. This speech happened in D.C. Around the same time, VP Harris was on stage in Farmington Hills. Trump vowed the Jewish community in America will be a lot safer if he's voted back into office.
It will be a bright new day for the Jewish community in America. No longer will you have to walk the streets in fear. You're walking the streets in fear. Can you believe it? Young college students are afraid to go to college. It's not something that anybody thought they would ever hear or see. No longer will you be threatened on your college campuses. No longer will you be discriminated against in college admissions.
Now, this speech comes as one of Trump's allies faces anti-Semitism allegations. According to CNN, North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson made several inflammatory comments on a porn website's message board where he referred to himself as a, quote, black Nazi, end quote. Robinson denies making those comments. Trump did not address the controversy tonight. Well, back now to the celebrity endorsement conversation. We saw the star-studded intro Vice President Harris got, but former President Trump has some huge names in his corner as well. So that has us wondering what you think about these big names pushing one candidate or the other. As we always say, this show really is about you. So we put you first. So we hit the streets to get a pulse check to see if celebrity endorsements on either side sway your vote. Here's what many of you had to say.
I mean, it could impact my decision a little bit, although I'm usually better informed about who I'm going to vote for prior to any celebrity endorsement.
No, I already know who I'm voting for.
I can't think of a one that would influence me one way or the other.
I don't think that a celebrity would impact my views on voting. I mean, I've already had strong views on voting pretty much my entire life.
I also asked you the question on fox2detroit.com. If you want to weigh in, just scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen right now. So far, the vast majority of you say no. And that number isn't even close, 94% to 6. So now the question becomes, how much do celebrity endorsements really impact the election? Will it actually get people out to vote? A guy who's a true star right now, Oakland University political science professor Dave Dulio in the hot seat with us here tonight. Dave, good to see you. Thanks for joining us on the Pulse tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Always good to have you. All right, so here we have it. You could say Oprah is a national treasure, and she's one of the most powerful women in America. She does a virtual event with Kamala Harris tonight, the VP who wants to be president. Does it matter to the undecided voter that Oprah Winfrey took the time to spend a couple hours with this woman?
It matters at the margins, right? I think this is not something that is going to see the polls move 4, 5, 6 points, right? We are going to end up with a race early next week, right where it is today. Razor thin in places like Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, et cetera. So at the margins, I think these are really aimed at the base to keep that enthusiasm up, to keep the excitement level up. That really is leading up to a turnout effort closer to Election Day and through the absentee process.
Let's talk about some of the other endorsements that we've already heard about. Of course, Taylor Swift putting in her 2 cents for Kamala Harris, saying that she has her endorsement. Does that move the meter, and does that help Taylor Swift, by the way, or hurt Taylor Swift?
It does work both ways,
yeah,
right? I mean, we had President Trump come out on Truth Social and say, well, he didn't say very nice things about Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I think the words were, I hate Taylor Swift.
I'll let you say it, not me,
words,
right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I hear you.
And, so, again, it's really driven for well, this case might be a little different, right? She's trying to reach the younger voters, sure, right, which we know are not terribly reliable when it comes to voter turnout. They vote at the lowest rates of any age group. And that might shift things a little bit in terms of getting people to the polls who are of say, college age, right? And it might move a couple of votes, but the thing to remember is we don't need to see huge shifts here in a state like Michigan.
A point is good enough. 2 points is good enough.
Less than that, right?
Yeah.
Let's not forget that President Trump won here in 2016 by less than 11,000 votes, and Joe Biden wins here in 2020 by about 154,000, right? That is razor thin. So even a small shift can have a big impact on outcome.
Yeah, it's interesting because you hear a lot of conservative voices out there say we don't need Hollywood to tell us how to think and what to think. But at the same time, you do have Republican celebrities out there who have endorsed Trump. Hulk Hogan being namely one of them, and our own from Michigan, Kid Rock. And that, again, is not, as you say, to help a moderate voter sway one way or the other, but that's just to get the base fired up. But in this case, with Oprah Winfrey doing a virtual event, how does that change things, a virtual event, something that at an unknown location is taking place in Metro Detroit? Does that help Kamala Harris or hurt her?
I think you could probably make a case that it goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it helps her get her message out, sure, but why do a virtual event? Why have all of this hype? And really, that's a big part of these celebrity endorsements, right? Is just hype and to keep the fervor up. Why have all this hype and then do it at a remote location and not take advantage of being here in Michigan, where there are some persuadable voters left, a few, but again, where it's incredibly close, and you never know, right? You meet a voter, you get somebody to come out who might want to meet Oprah or get exposure to Oprah, and that might shift them. Seems like a missed opportunity more than anything.
Well, also you have someone like J.D. Vance on the opposition who is always firing away at the number of interviews that Ms. Harris has done relative to that Vance has done and Trump has done, and the numbers are there.
Oh, absolutely. I saw some data earlier today that compared the number of interviews done by Trump and Vance to Harris and Walton. It was 67 for the Republican ticket to 7 for the Democratic ticket. And that just sort of harkens back to those criticisms that the Harris campaign has been getting around exposure to media and answering questions, going before media, whether it's a one-on-one interview or a press conference. So I think that just reinforces what we've been seeing.
And as we do always on this show, we'll be fair about this. I mean, Donald Trump just did something with Fox and Friends that was friendly fire. Oprah Winfrey, we don't expect to come out from a conservative place and nail her with really hard questions. So both of these candidates are doing what's best for them, which is to protect that margin as closely as they can and get their base rallied.
And I think that's a real issue with how American campaigns have evolved, right, is that they are now all about candidate self-interest, right? They're not opening themselves up to any kind of vulnerability, right, where they would have to face some hard-hitting questions from other reporters. President Trump would say, well, look, I take hard-hitting questions all the time from the press that hates me. And some of that might be true, but we see it in terms of the Harris campaign and that criticism. Why aren't you going to the press? We want to have control over our message. We want to have control over the situation.
That's something that they continue to purport. And we invite both candidates, if their camps happen to be watching online, to do an interview with local television as well. Local journalism very much matters to the people watching. We are diving deeper into this celebrity endorsement next with some stars of our own. Janie Rowe and Lori Goldman debate how much it could impact both campaigns next. Okay, thank you so much. Great work. All right, back now on The Pulse. Taylor Swift's endorsement of VP Harris has so many people talking, some happy about it, some not so much, including this person.
If she wants to vote